Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's workshop. Now, although I had painted new baseboard for the attic, I did have to salvage a few scraps to finish the job. Now you can see I start prepping things with the blue painter's tape so that I can paint everything a cream color, and I really think the stain under the cream paint is going to give it a more aged look. Now, dolls, I'm just popping over to the other side of the house to just give you perspective of where the stairwell will be. Now, this is the stairway or hallway on the other side, just above the pantry in the rooming house, dollhouse. And this is a stairway that I created, a false stairway that leads up to the attic space, but there's actually no opening. That's aluminum foil inside a frame I created to give the illusion that you can go upstairs with these stairs, which is going to lead to the stairwell that I'm creating in the attic. Now, this is just a little storage closet that I built under these stairs a couple years ago to use as a closet or cleaning products area for the house. And then this is the hallway that leads you to the other side where Sadi's room is and where Marguerite's parents are going to stay. Now again, this is the back hall, and this is the door that leads to Violet and Albert's room. I was going to show you inside that room, but the door is clearly locked, so I think I'll leave them alone and give them their privacy and go back to the attic. Now here we are. I've got the door clamped in. I've painted all of the beadboard. Now, dolls, I haven't glued that wall in yet. I'm just waiting for everything to be nice and dry with the paint, but I really like the overall look of this space. I truly feel like it looks like an old attic space that they prepped and painted to be living space that really wasn't intended to be living space. So I really like the look. So let's go ahead and look at it with everything in place. And all the paint is dry now. The dolls have been up there to mop and sweep up to clean everything up so they can start adding furniture to the space. Now you can see on the other side of that wall. I've got some ideas of what I'm going to use that space for, but let me show you. This is our door, which opens to the space that's going to be assigned to the children. The door opens and closes nice and smoothly, closes nice and snug. And also I just want to show you really quick. And here is the folded ladder in between the floors and the door there. I put a little latch on it so that it would lock. So everything's looking really well. This area and space is ready to decorate. I just noticed that whoever was mopping has a little puddle of water on the floor under the bucket. But I'm sure the dolls will get that up before we get rugs and beds in here. So let's go on and pop on downstairs and see what's happening among the dolls. In the last episode, we left off with Sterling, Marguerite's father, standing in the door of the cafe, staring blankly into the darkness. Uncle Barley and Pop came in to find out why he walked out of the room so abruptly after seeing Sadi. As Uncle Barley stood by, Pop demanded of Sterling to tell them what was going on. Sterling began to explain that years ago when he was in the service, there was a young man who bunked in the bunk ahead of him. They had become friends while serving. They would talk to each other about the letters their wives were writing them. His wife was pregnant with a baby at the time. They had served and left the service, and then he didn't hear from him anymore. The young man, Sadi, in the other room looks exactly like that man. He tried to explain to Pop and Uncle Barley it was so shocking to see him, but he believes that's his son. Uncle Barley and Pop let Sterling know that they empathized with what he was going through and that they would support him when he went back in the room. They continued to talk for about an hour. In the midst of the conversation, Uncle Barley and Pop confirmed to Sterling that Sadi was a very nice young man, and they urged Sterling to allow Sadi and Marguerite to begin their courtship. They definitely knew for sure that he was in love with her, but they urged him to allow himself time to get to know Sadi for himself while he was here on his visit. They urged Sterling to go back in and explain. It's clear that Sadi had concerns whether things would go well tonight. He had prepared himself to leave the rooming house if he couldn't court Marguerite. When Sterling, Pop, and Uncle Barley re-entered the room, everyone was relieved. Sterling started with apologizing to Big Daddy for disrupting the occasion, and then he turned to Sadi and apologized to him as well. He told Sadi that he was really glad to meet him, and he began to share the story. As he shared the story, Sadi's eyes got bigger and bigger. This was all so hard to believe. Finally, Sadi stood up and asked curiously, "You knew my father?" Sterling replied, "Yes, I knew your father. I knew him very well before you were even born." Sterling then continued that there would be plenty of time to talk about that at another time, but that it was time for them to get to the first business at hand. Sterling announced proudly to the room that he's giving consent for Sadi to court Marguerite based on Sadi's father's character. Sadi attempted again to shake Sterling's hand, and Sterling grabbed him to give him the family handshake and a hug. Sterling told him that it was unnecessary for him to be formal anymore, that he was about to become family. After all of Sadi's worries and concerns, suddenly the whole room lit up. It's like his whole life was changing. As Sadi turned to look at Marguerite, everyone was cheering and laughing and saying it was time to plan a wedding. Marguerite stood up and ran to her father and thanked him. She hugged him really, really tight. Then her father let her go and turned her towards Sadi. Marguerite was blushing, and Sadi felt like this was the happiest day of his life so far, but he had so much more to look forward to. Sadi was so happy he came here to the rooming house to start a new life. Sadi knew when he first saw Marguerite that he wanted her to be his wife, and now all his dreams are coming true.